Moving on to economy from the month of November, we have RBI report on municipal finances. Now, the RBI has released document titled Report on Municipal Finances. Now, the key observations are that municipal corporations, the rapid growth of urbanization in India has not been accompanied by a corresponding increase in urban infrastructure. This is reflected in the performance of municipal corporations. The size of municipal budget in India is smaller than the peers in other countries. The share of municipal corporations' own revenue, that is, own tax and non-tax sources, has been declining, and the share of government transfers has been increasing. Now, this indicates growing fiscal dependency on such grants from the higher level of governments. Now, the municipal revenues expenditure in India have stagnated at around 1% of the GDP for a decade. In contrast, municipal revenues expenditure accounts for 7.4% of GDP in Brazil and 6% of the GDP in South Africa. Now, municipal corporations' committed expenditure is rising, but capital expenditure is minimal. Now, municipal corporations mostly rely on borrowings from banks and financial institutions and loans from central and state governments to finance their resource gap in absence of a well defined market for municipal bonds. Now, state governments have not set up state finance commissions in a regular and timely manner, even though they are required to be set up every 5 years. In most of the states, state finance commissions have not been effective in ensuring the rule-based devolution of funds to local government. Now, the suggestions given by the reports are that municipal corporations should adopt sound and transparent accounting practices with proper monitoring and documentations of various receipts and expenditure items. Now, municipal corporations should also explore different innovative bonds and land-based financing mechanisms to augment their resources. In order to improve the buoyancy of municipal revenue, center and state may share one-sixth and of their GST revenue with them. That is 17% of their GST revenue with them. Now, India's trade with China. India's export to China are rising faster than imports. Now, India's trade with China, the trade between the two countries has grown 59% from US dollars 72 billion US dollars in 2014-15 to 115.4 billion dollars in 21-22. Now, exports rose from 11.9 billion dollars to 21.25 billion dollars, which is a rise of 78.1%, whereas imports rose from 60.4 billion dollars to 94.16 billion dollars, which is a 55.8% rise. Now, intermediate goods account for more than 33% of India's import from China, while capital goods constitute 19.3. Major import items include electronic components, computer hardware and peripherals, telecom instruments, organic chemicals, industrial machinery for dairy, residual chemicals and allied products, electronic instruments, bulk drugs, and intermediates. Now, reasons for India's dependence on Chinese goods is due to the gap between the domestic production and demand in India. China being a manufacturing hub, having a price competitiveness due to economies of scale and subsidies provided by its government to the Chinese industry. Now, the measures taken to limit Chinese import is the production linked initiative, that is PLI schemes for different sectors, will help reduce dependence on such imports over time. Moreover, technical regulations frame for products such as toys, electronics, chemicals, and fertilizers will help check substandard imports. Now, let's look at the doom loop. Many economists have warned that Europe may be headed for a doom loop. Now, what exactly is a doom loop? A doom loop is a circle of vulnerability where a country's banking system can be severely hurt by volatility, that is, uncertainty in the economy. Now, a country is at the risk of a doom loop when a shock at one part of its economic system is amplified by its effect on another. Now, let's look at the doom loop. It can start with any of the phases. Let's start with bank lends less and people spend less. This will slow down the economic growth, which again will make more financial institutions look weak. Now, this is going to affect the price growth of assets or economic growth. Now, in that case, people run from weak financial institutions. Now the financial institutions offload assets in a fire sale, in the sense that they start selling their assets, and due to the sale of assets, the price of those assets are further declining. Now, the assets prices decline further. This is adding fuel to the fire of the declining assets, which is why fire sale. Now, the sale is adding fire to the whole thing. Moving on, we have impact of the doom loop on economy. The doom loop is a circle of vulnerability where a country's banking system can be severely hurt by volatility in price of sovereign bonds they hold for reserve. This can lead to contraction in loans provided by banks as reserves decrease due to fall in prices of bond. The contraction in credit slows the domestic economy, resulting in a further deterioration in the prices of sovereign bond issues. A government under financial stress may have to cut spending or raise taxes when the economy is weak. That in turn can aggravate fiscal problems. The circle can also be activated by external forces such as slowdown in the global economic activity due to natural recession or trade frictions. Now let's look at Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samriddhi Kendra scheme. The PM has launched the PMKSK scheme. Now it will have one of a kind model fertilizer retail shop that shall offer various facilities under a single roof. The farmer can get fertilizers and other inputs at cheaper rates under a single roof, adopt new technologies to enhance their farm production, and be able to earn higher incomes. These Kendras will also provide an interactive platform for knowledge sharing to create awareness among farmers on the latest and best agriculture technology and practices, as well as on the balanced use of fertilizers. Now, training to the retailers, it will be conducted every 6 months. Agricultural scientists and agricultural experts will also be engaged for training retailers on various topics. Now, the Kendras under the PMKSK scheme is the village level, tehsil level, and district level. The village level Kendras will aid farmers with crop literature, soil fertility maps, messages from the government authorities, and data on stock positions of fertilizers, subsidy, marked retail prices, etc. Now, the tehsil level Kendras will facilitate like a help desk on new age fertilizers and government scheme, a crop advisory, teleconsultation with experts, a common service center, soil testing facility, sample collection unit for seeds and pesticide testing, etc. The district level Kendras will have all facilities at a larger scale with entire product range showcased in large seating capacity, testing facility for soil, seed, water, pesticides, and a common service center. Now let's look at the World Economic Outlook Report of 2022. The IMF has released the World Economic Outlook Report of 2022. Now the key observations of the WEO are performance of India in the previous decade. Four countries are the best performers for 2011 to 21 decade. That is Bangladesh, China, Vietnam, and India. China, Vietnam were also featured as the top performer for the previous decade. Now, India recorded best ever decadal growth performance in 2001-11, but its growth was slower than all emerging market and developing countries in that decade. In the previous two decades, that is 1991 to 2001 and 1981 to 1991, India performed better than the average emerging markets. In terms of dollars, the Indian economy grew to 3.7 times its size in 2001 to 11 decade, but only 1.7 times in the latest decade. The IMF report for 4 decades, that is 1981 to 2021, highlights that only three countries, which are China, South Korea, Vietnam, did significantly better than India. Now, India's share in world GDP has been rising from 2.5% in 2011 to 3.3% in 2021. It is further expected to grow in the future. Now, growth projections are such that the Indian economy is set to grow at a rate of 6.8%, whereas all emerging markets are expected to grow only 3.7% in 2022-23. The growth for advanced economies is expected to slow from 2.4% to 1.1% in the next year. Four Asian countries, including India, are candidates for international businesses looking to diversify their bases away from China by following a China plus one strategy. Moving forward to printing of notes by the RBI, call for an images of deities on banknotes has brought the process of currency design and focus. Now the design of Indian banknotes, changes in the design and form of banknotes and coins are decided by RBI and the Union government. Any change in the design of a currency note has to be approved by RBI's central board and Union government. Now changes in the design and coins are prerogative of the Union government. Role of RBI in issuing notes. Now, the Section 22 of the RBI Act 1934 gives RBI the sole right to issue banknotes in India. Section 25 states that the design, form, material of banknotes shall be such as may be approved by the Union government after consideration of recommendations made by RBI Central Board. Within RBI, the currency is managed by Department of Currency Management, which recommends design to the Union government. Now, the printing of currency notes. Two of India's currency note printing presses are in Nasik and Devas. These are owned by Government of India. Two other printing presses are in Mysore and Salboni. These are owned by RBI through its wholly owned subsidiary Bharatiya Reserve Bank Note Mudran Limited, BNML. Now, minting of coins. The Coinage Act of 2011 gives the Union government the power to design and mint coins in various denominations. In case of coins, the role of RBI is limited to distribution of coins that are supplied by Union government. The government decides on the quantity of coins to be minted on the basis of indents received from the RBI on a yearly basis. Now, coins are minted in 4 mints owned by the government in the cities of Mumbai, Hyderabad, Kolkata, and Noida. Now let's look at the series of banknotes issued. The first note that was issued was Ashoka's pillar banknotes. and was a rupee 1 note issued in 1949. It replaced the portrait of King George with the symbol of lion capital of Ashoka pillar at Sarnath in the watermark window. Now, MG series was introduced in 1996, and all the banknotes of this series bears the portrait of Mahatma Gandhi on the front side in place of the symbol of lion capital. Now, the lion capital was moved to the left next to the watermark window. Now, MG series 2005, they contain some additional new security features as compared to the 1996 MG series. Now, the MG new series, that is 2016, these new notes highlight India's cultural heritage and scientific achievements. Now, the 10 rupee notes have Konark Sun Temple, 20 rupee has the Ellora Caves, 50 has the Hampi, 100 has the Rani Ki Vav, 200 has the Sachi Stupa, 500 has Red Fort, and 2000 notes have Mangalyaan. Now let's look at manufacturing facility for C-295 aircrafts. Now the Prime Minister has laid the foundation stone for Tata Consortium's C-95 manufacturing facility in Vadodara, Gujarat. Now the significance of the C-295 manufacturing facility is that it is a first large-scale project given directly to the private sector and will bridge a critical gap in indigenous aircraft manufacturing. Now C-295's versatility would provide Indian Air Force with an immensely powerful tactical transport capability. In the next decade, it will become the backbone of IAF's entire tactical transport operations. The project will involve creations of production infrastructure with transfer of technology from Airbus. The resulting manufacturing supply will spread from Tata to a host of MSMEs. About 125 MSMEs across the country will be involved in the supply chain. The maintenance and repair and overhaul capability will be a boon for private sector, with a long-term commitment to efficient and cost-effective maintenance support for IAF. Now, moving ahead, India should try to get export orders and start targeting MROs of aircraft in friendly countries. Now, India should develop indigenous mission computers and own operational softwares to support indigenous products and R&D, permit rapid modernizations. Now, application of C-295 aircraft. The aircraft is contemporary in design, technology, and system. It can have multiple military applications like airborne early warning control, electronic intelligence, maritime patrol, search and rescue, aerial refueling. It has a load capacity of 9 tons. It can carry up to 71 passengers or 44 paratroopers or 24 stretchers for medical evacuations. Now, civilian applications. It can connect destinations which are tough to service or reachable only through semi-prepared surface and short takeoff and landing, that is stalls runways. This can help in both passenger and load carrying tasks. It can undertake casualty or medical evacuation operations and disaster response activity. Now, moving on to Millet Export Promotion Program, the Ministry of Commerce has released a comprehensive millet exports promotion to promote Indian millet exports across the globe. About the Millet Exports Promotion Program, it has been prepared by Agricultural and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority, that is APIDA. It aims to promote export of Indian millets across the globe. The program comes at a backdrop of proposal of India that was supported by 72 countries, which led to the UNGA declaring 2023 as the International Year of Millets. Now, key features of the program are: the government will facilitate participation of exporters, farmers, traders in 16 international trade expos, buyer-sellers meets to promote export of millets. Indian missions abroad would be roped in for branding and publicity of Indian millets. Ambassadors of foreign missions in India of the targeted countries would be invited to showcase various millet-based products. APIDA will showcase millets and its value-added products at various global platforms. APIDA will also organize food sampling and tasting at retail levels in key local bazaars of targeted countries where individual household consumers can gain familiarity with the millet products. The government is also mobilizing startups for export promotion of value-added products in ready-to-eat and ready-to-serve categories such as noodle, pasta, breakfast, cereal mix, biscuits, cookies, snacks, sweets, etc. Now, about the millets production in India. India is one of the leading producers of millets in the world with an estimated share of 41% in the global production. India's top 5 millet producing states are Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Gujarat, and Madhya Pradesh. Now, export of millets. The share of exports of millets is nearly 1% of the total millet production. The varieties of millets exported by India include bajra, ragi, canary, jowar, and buckwheat. Now, millets market. It is estimated that the millets market is set to grow from its current market value of more than $9 billion to $12 billion by 2025.